So welcome, James. This is James Aiken, who's a former Hereford Sixth Form college student who has gone on to be hugely successful. Thank you so much, James, for joining me. Tell me a little bit about yourself, your background, and your journey from Hereford and onwards.
So I'm James and I'm from Abergavenny, so not very far away from Hereford. I came from King Henry VIII School in Abergavenny to sixth form. Whilst I was at sixth form, I studied philosophy and ethics, sociology, business studies, and I did an EPQ as well. I since from Hereford have gone to Cardiff Met University to study a Bachelor of Arts in Business Management with Law. And since then, I have decided to study my master's in Manchester in law to pursue my career as a solicitor.
Amazing. And now let's just wind back a little bit. So you've just finished at Cardiff Met, and I hear that went reasonably well.
So I graduated with a first. So lots of hard work, but did graduate with a first. And I was lucky to, whilst I was doing my degree, get some work experience as well. And I'm still at the same place doing my work experience, and they've offered me a paid place as well. So I really did come out of uni really well.
That is absolutely amazing. And now Manchester too. And is it an MA at Manchester?
Yeah, it's an MA in Manchester, and the course name is MA Law with SQE1. They're changing the classic route from doing a law degree and then sitting the LPC, the law practicing course, and they're changing it to the SQE form, which is solicitor qualifying exam. But that's kind of the new route, so that's the route I'll be taking.
Fabulous. Really, really interesting. So what would you say about your experience at coming to Hereford, your experience with us that helped you going on?
And now that I've done university, the transition from sixth form to university really isn't that different. So when I came from doing my GCSEs to Hereford, I came from King Henry, and there were about 100 something people in my year, not really that many if you think about it. And Hereford gave me such a good base to be more individual. You need to prepare this by the next lesson. And that's very much sort of the approach that many universities are taking now, especially mine. So it was almost like a very smooth transition all the way from GCSEs right the way to where I am now.
And then tell me about your subjects. What kind of skills do they teach you or anything like that?
So I'm not sure how many philosophy and ethics students will watch this, but philosophy and ethics was one of the hardest A levels. Content I had to learn for that. I can still remember some of it now. So even though I did a business management with law degree, I would still study things like utilitarianism, trying to find the greatest happiness, the greatest amount, Jeremy Bentham, all of that kind of stuff. I carry through. And like I said, my A levels were very, lots of essay writing, and perhaps you'd argue that, business management is a contrast of that and it's lots of numbers. But actually, I took forward a lot of what I did in my subjects like sociology and like philosophy into my degree now. And like I said, business management is a lot about numbers. It's about running. It's about, like I said, I could have done economics at A level, and that would have been very useful for my degree. But I learned stuff in sociology about how businesses adapt in society. Like, there were so many skills I took from sociology, and philosophy and ethics were so essay based. I took those skills that I'd learned from those subjects into what I do in my degree now.
That is so interesting. And actually, it's really interesting to think about the sociology of business. That would never have occurred to me at all. And then tell me, how did you decide you were definitely going to go down the law route rather than the business already? So what helped you think I'm going to go, and particularly a master's, clearly you are, so super bright. What made you think I'm going to continue to do more education and do an MA?
So if I'm completely honest, it would probably be because of COVID. I felt that the job market is going to be not brilliant. And especially for perhaps my time, I felt that it would be good to get my master's kind of under my belt now. But also the fact that I'm in that mindset is that I'm in that education mindset. And that was almost why I chose to go to uni straight after my A levels, was because I thought, I know some students like to have a year out to, work, get some money under their belt. And sometimes they're not ready to leave home or ready to go to university. And that's also fine. But for me, I thought if I finish my A levels, because I'm in that academic rigorous mindset, the best thing for me was to carry on. And that's how I feel now, is that I feel like if I continue in this mindset to get my master's under my belt, that puts me in the best running for when I come out of it.
And now tell me a little bit about your own family circumstances. Did both your parents go to uni and they knew all about it? What was your
No.
kind of family circumstance like?
So my father is a farmer. He did his GCSEs. So my dad didn't go to university. Neither did my mother. My mother did an apprenticeship in the bank, and then she worked her way up and she does some managerial stuff now. So neither of my family went to university. So it was kind of difficult to explain. I think it's really hard, especially like for my dad being a farmer, is that it's a lot of money to go to university and it's got to be something you want to do. And things like immediate gratification for farmers is kind of what you see. Like they like to buy things now for now. I'm very lucky that both of my parents are very supportive. And after my A levels, they said, look, if you want to go to university, go to university. It was, well, I wouldn't say challenging, but I think you have got to be a little bit more patient, just explaining to them like where you're kind of wanting to go with it, what kind of careers it opens you up to. And also I think that this is kind of brushed over, but salaries, I think that it's really, really good to have your mind set on a career that will kind of fund the lifestyle or allow you to do the things that you want to do. And that happens with hard work. And that's all you've got to convey, is that that this will happen. It's a long-term investment. And while it might seem, like you've got a student life now, it will all pay off. Like it really will.
That is so helpful. And I think what you've said there, a lot of that for so many of my students who are the first generation in their family to apply for university, it's that kind of their parents worrying and actually saying, that actually opens the doors to jobs, and actually that long-term investment. And also the other thing is, just like you've been talking about, all the critical skills and the connecting of the dots that you have done in your degree. That's what you want. That's what they want in the jobs market. And actually a lot of the labour market information that I get is they're wanting students who do think, well, that was really sociology there and this from philosophy, or that ability to connect the dots. So useful for employers.
Definitely.
And tell us a little bit about your work experience.
So a part of my degree was one of the reasons why I chose this degree in particular, was because lots of degrees have sandwiches. So it'll be a 4-year course, and in your 3rd year you can have a year in industry and get some work experience. Now, I know just from being at university that the one thing that people want is experience. So degrees are great, firsts are great, but people do want experience. So my course allowed me to do a work experience module. So instead of taking a whole year out, I still got to do some work experience with a company. So the company I was very lucky. I had lots of support at my university, but I actually sourced the company myself. And the company I got a job with was called the Cyber Resilience Centre for Wales. So the Cyber Resilience Centre for Wales is a not-for-profit police-led organisation. It's one of 9 across the UK, and it's funded by the Home Office. It is backed by the National Police Chiefs Council. It's part of the National Cyber Security Centre. And my job for a couple of weeks at the start was just purely looking at all the clients that were coming in, contacting them, making sure they had everything from the centre, everything that we needed. My boss at the time was a detective inspector, so that was really great for reference for that. So it started off with just doing a little bit of that, and then after that, then they said, look, will you come back? Like, really, really happy with what you did at the time. Like, we kind of don't want to lose you. And I was like, yeah, no, that's fine. And they were really understanding. So they gave me some time off to write my dissertation, which I wrote around cybercrime. And I've now been offered a paid placement there, part-time, just while I do my master's, because obviously master's is quite an intense year. But just on the side as well, they've said, yeah, no, look, we'd like to keep you. So I'm a client relationship manager there. So I'm in charge of a big bank of clients. I look at all the stuff that comes in, see who needs to be dealt with, delegate little bits out and so forth. And just even little things like that is carrying those skills that I learned from philosophy and sociology. Again, very essay heavy subject. Things like structuring, how to write correctly, those kind of things is what I really took forward. And it was almost like the structure that I would have when I wrote essays. If I've got to write a really long email, what's my point? How am I evidencing what I'm trying to say? Explaining it, carrying those kind of skills over, I still do now.
That is exactly what I constantly tell my students. That is amazing. But you must have been absolutely invaluable. That work experience that you had, you made yourself indispensable. So that attitude in you and kind of making willing, working hard, and that organization clearly saw your talent. For students who are at Hereford to think, when and if I do get work experience, make the best of it, show willing, put all yourself into it, because you just don't know where that will lead to.
Employers look for that kind of experience. What makes you different from everybody else who's going to get that degree? I think you've got a very good college. I think that I was very well supported, and I think that you definitely get the base to, and the confidence to feel like I can go out and do that as well. But yeah, no, definitely getting some work experience alongside. And obviously after your A levels, you want to have a bit of fun, you want to enjoy, celebrate, but definitely start looking at things, because lots of employers take on work experience placements the year prior. So lots of places want, maybe this time next year, do you want to come and do some things? So make sure that you're always just kind of just checking the news, or just checking things like LinkedIn, Indeed, anything and everything counts. And I think that that's really important.
Absolutely. And the other thing actually is that we've now got a week in the timetable at the end of the first year where all the students will have a week off timetable in order to get work experience. And we've got a work experience coordinator to help them do that for that exact reason. And we've had employers, the labour market, kind of saying to us, this is exactly, you're absolutely bang on the money. And actually, we're also aware that quite a few of the schools, having had COVID era, haven't been able to organise that week work experience for the students like they used to.
Schools do have careers help. I don't think it is as good as perhaps you get at Hereford. I think that you've got a really good thing going, and I wish I'd taken more advantage of it. I do. I really do.
Well, I think some of the key things you've said is those kind of skills you've got from the subjects you did. And what's really interesting is hearing those essay skills that you learned, and actually doing, philosophy and ethics is so tough, and exactly like you said, so content driven, but actually how that's been useful, and then how you've also found your way through to what you're going to do now. And the other thing I think is so useful for our students is to kind of know how important work experience is, have that long game, obviously, getting that education under your belt, but also having that kind of mindset of making yourself willing, that attitude that you have that makes you invaluable to work. But James, it is absolutely a privilege to be in contact and hear about your journey. And thank you so much for speaking to us today.
I wish them all the best at A levels. I know how tough they are. But keep at it, guys, and I'm sure you'll all be very successful.
Thank you so much, James. Lovely to chat.
Lovely. Thank you, Vicky.
Bye.